Some jobs just sound peaceful, solitary, romantic, even. That's how it felt when I took the fire lookout post deep in the Ottawa National Forest, up near the Michigan-Wisconsin border. My job was simple: monitor for smoke, call it in, and log weather patterns. No tourists, no traffic, no cell reception. Just me, 80 feet up, surrounded by trees that went on forever. They told me it'd be lonely. They didn't say I'd be watched. It all started in June 2019. The tower was an old one, built in the 60s. Steel frame, narrow stairs, with a small cabin perched at the top. You had to climb 96 steps to reach it. I counted. It was equipped with the basics: cot, radio, weather instruments, and thick observation windows on all four sides. I had a handheld two-way, a landline hardwired to the ranger station 30 miles away, and a shotgun for black bears. Never used it. Didn't think I'd need to. The first week was beautiful. Cool mornings, warm days, birdsong, wind rustling the pines like waves. I kept a journal. I made coffee at sunrise. Felt like I was in one of those peaceful YouTube videos. Cabin alone for a month or something. Then things changed. Around the end of week 2, I heard a noise one night. Woke me up about 2:30 a.m. exactly. It was low at first, guttural, and then it rose like something in pain. But not a coyote, not a wolf either. Wolves echo, coyotes yip. They sounded deliberate. One long, controlled howl that ended in a breathy rasp. It came from the north tree line, maybe 200 yards out. Then another, closer. I got up, grabbed my flashlight, but didn't go down, just watched from the dark. Never saw anything. I wrote it off. Until it happened again and again, same time. Always after 2:30 a.m. and always closer. The start of week 3, I had stopped sleeping through the night. Every evening felt heavier, like the trees themselves were watching. On the night of June 19th, I was jotting down notes just past midnight. Clear sky, 63 degrees, zero wind. And that's when I saw movement. Down below, base of the tower. I flipped off the lantern and stepped quietly to the east window. There was a shadow, tall, still. At first I thought it was a bear standing. But it didn't sway or move like a bear. It was upright, lean, too tall. I reached for the binoculars. It stepped back into the tree line, but not like an animal. It stepped like you or I would. Morning came. I made myself believe that it was just a trick of the light, shadows on the trees, but I still couldn't shake it. Later that day, I finally decided to climb down, and I went to check the ground around the base and found some tracks. Not boot prints, paw prints, but they were long, wider at the top. 4 clear toe pads, but with a 5th like a thumb, and claws. Each print the size of a dinner plate. That's when I noticed the gouges on the lower ladder, 3 slashes, each about a foot long, carved into the metal supports. Something had grabbed it. I reported it that night, said there was a large animal nearby. They just told me to keep the shotgun close. June 21st, summer solstice. I'll never forget that night. Full moon, clear sky, trees silver in the light. I sat with the shotgun across my lap. 2:32 a.m. I hear the first creak of the metal from below. I moved to the western window and saw the top of the ladder shifting slightly, Wait, something climbing. My heart stopped. I turned off every light, sat in total darkness, the creaking getting closer, step by step, a footfall every few seconds. And then silence. I waited, minutes passing. And then a hand, a black, gnarled hand with claws gripped the window ledge. It didn't open the window, it just tapped once, twice, 3 times. And then it dragged its claws across the glass, like it knew I was frozen inside. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Eventually, it climbed back down. I was never more frightened in my life. I waited till morning, and then I called in. I told them I needed out, which they didn't argue. Just said that someone would relieve me in 48 hours. And I couldn't sleep those 2 nights. Every time I blinked, I pictured that hand, the tapping, the grin I sensed but never saw. When my replacement finally arrived, he asked why I looked so pale. I just handed him the journal and said, "If something taps after midnight, don't open the window. Don't." He didn't laugh, just nodded like he already knew. It didn't take too long, and they decommissioned the tower, and I never asked why. But I ran into a ranger at a bar in Houghton that winter. She'd been stationed near the same area. And when I mentioned the tower, she leaned in and said, "The locals have a name for that stretch of woods. They call it the watching place. Because whatever lives there never forgets a face." And even without telling me that, I never took another watch job again. And I never sit near a window at night, because sometimes when the wind dies and the world goes still, I can still hear it. Tap, tap, tap.
Hello, Paranormal Poet. My name is James, and I'm telling you this story because, well, if I said it anywhere else, especially to my boss, I'd be fired. I've been a truck driver for almost 15 years. I've seen some weird stuff on the road. People walking along highways in the middle of nowhere, strange lights in the sky, and it seems to be quite the coincidence that all sightings were at 3 a.m. for me. But nothing has ever made me question reality like what I saw this one night in April. It was a routine drive, my usual route through the lower peninsula of Michigan. I've done it hundreds of times. The only thing that was different was the time. I usually didn't drive this stretch too late. The road was dead empty. No cars, no radio chatter. Just the sound of my tires humming against the asphalt. I made it to a particularly forested area. I was looking at dense, heavy trees on either side of me. It was around 2:57 a.m. when all of a sudden, there was a large thump. Something huge hit my trailer. The whole rig jostled back and forth, and I nearly lost control. Luckily, experience kicked in, and I remained calm and got control of my rig. I thought I hit a deer, but there was nothing in the road behind me. I pulled onto the shoulder and grabbed my flashlight and stepped out. The second my boots hit the ground, I felt it. Something wasn't right. The air was too still. The trees along the road, black silhouettes standing against the night, stood completely motionless. No wind, no rustling, just a strange, eerie silence. I walked along the side of my truck, scanning the metal. No dents, no blood, no fur. And then, deep in the tree line, that is when I saw it. At first I thought it was a man sitting against a tree, but as my flashlight landed on it, I realized my mistake. This thing was covered in thick black fur. Its leg bent like a dog's. Clawed hands rested on the ground. It was staring at me. Its eyes glowed amber like the embers of a lit cigarette. They reflected the light, but there was a haunting intelligence behind them, a calm awareness. I should have ran, but I was frozen. Suddenly it moved, not towards me, away from me. In one smooth motion, it rose to its full height. It was massive, well over 7 feet tall, and then, before I could even blink, it launched itself into the trees. It made no noise as it moved through the underbrush. Didn't hear any branches snap. It just vanished. I backed away, climbed into my truck, and locked the doors. I drove the rest of the night, white-knuckling the wheel, my eyes darting to the mirrors in case I ever run into it again. I don't drive that route at night anymore, and if I do, I make sure to drive it as early as I possibly can. I don't talk about this with anyone, but I needed to tell someone, and I figured you might actually believe me. My advice to you, don't go out so late at night, especially in the lower peninsula of Michigan, because God save you if the Michigan Dogman finds you first. Everyone, stay safe out there.
I've only told this story maybe twice in my life. Once to my brother, and once to a guy that I met through a camping forum who had something similar happen. I don't really care if people believe it. I wouldn't believe it if it hadn't happened to me. This was in 2016. I was 27, and me and my girlfriend at the time, Sarah, had taken a long weekend to go camping in northern Wisconsin, Nicollet National Forest. It wasn't deep backcountry or anything like that, but it was a quiet, primitive site about 15 minutes down an old logging road off of Highway 32. We'd been there once before. It's not an official campground, but more like a little clearing that we stumbled on a year earlier. We decided to go revisit. No other cars, no signs of people, just miles of pines and an old fire rings from someone long before. The first night was a completely normal night. We cooked some brats over the fire and had a few drinks and watched the stars. Super clear sky, no wind, just pretty quiet. Just the usual forest sounds. You know, crickets, owls, the occasional rustle in the brush. Sometime around 2 a.m., I woke up. No real reason, I just snapped awake. It wasn't a noise or a dream. I just had this jolt, like something wasn't right. Sarah was asleep next to me. The fire had gone out and everything was pitch black. But the woods, they were dead silent, and I mean silent. No bugs, no wind. It was like someone had put the whole forest on mute. Just a crazy feeling. I just laid there, listening. And that's when I heard footsteps. Heavy ones. Not crunching leaves exactly. More like weight shifting across the soft ground. Slow, intentional. One step, then a pause. Another step. Getting closer to the tent. At first I thought it might just be a deer, but then it stopped right behind the tent, inches away. I could hear its breathing, slow, steady, and deep. And then I realized this thing was tall. Whatever it was standing up. I could see the shape of it through the fabric of the tent, just barely, with the moonlight behind it. It wasn't a bear, it was thin, tall, broad shoulders, and a head with pointed ears, not small, like a cat or a fox. These were wide, and tall, almost like horns. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My body locked up, and thank goodness Sarah was still asleep. It just stood out there, maybe 10, 15, the longest seconds of my life. And then, without warning, it just walked away. 4 slow steps, gone, back into the trees. I couldn't sleep for the rest of the night. Finally, by morning, I didn't say anything. I don't know why. Maybe I was scared that she would think I was messing with her or losing it. We didn't stay long enough for breakfast. I told her, let's just pack up this gear, and I wanted to head home. I never did go back to that spot, ever. 2 years later, Sarah and I broke up. Nothing to do with that night or anything, just life. And she still doesn't know what happened, and I never told her. A while after that, I ended up on a camping thread online where someone mentioned seeing something too tall to be a coyote and too upright to be a bear. That phrase stuck with me. I read more. And that's how I first came across the term Dogman. I still don't know exactly what I saw, but honestly, I try not to think about it too much. It's one of those things that sits in the back of your head and stays quiet until it doesn't. Sometimes I'll be driving at night on a lonely road or walking my dog past the tree line at night, and I'll get that same heavy, weird feeling in my chest, that weight, like something's watching me, like I'm not alone out there. And I'll catch myself listening for slow and steady breathing just outside the dark. And I'll think, what if it followed me home? I don't know if I believe in monsters, but I believe I saw something out there. And that's enough.
Hello, Paranormal Poet. My name is Daniel, for privacy's sake, of course. And I need to tell you something that happened to me last summer. For context, the day was as warm as you could ever wish for. It was my sister's birthday, and the whole family got together at her house in northern Michigan. We grilled amazing food, brought juice for the youngins, beer for the adults, and the kids ran around the backyard playing. A perfect summer evening. As the sun set further in the horizon and the light was starting to dim, the kids really wanted to play hide and seek. There were 6 of them, my nephew, my 2 nieces, and 3 of their cousins. They were all between the ages of 7 and 12 years old. I didn't think much of it. We used to do the same thing when we were kids, running through the yard, hiding behind trees, trying to scare each other. We usually wouldn't consider that option. The forests of Michigan are teeming with wildlife, some of which are incredibly dangerous, and you never know the instinct of some kids. So I originally hesitated. But after giving it some thought, we had a tall 6-foot fence around the dangerous part of our property, the forest. So I reconsidered and gave them permission, but to not stray too far. But soon it was I who wished I had told them no. The night was young, and the adults were in the kitchen, chatting it up. About 20 minutes go by, and as expected, I hear the kids screaming. But something felt off. It wasn't long until the first kid came back inside. He looked spooked. His face was red from running. He was breathing heavily. He looked at me, and he said he saw a big dog standing in the tree line, just watching him. I figured he had imagined it. Maybe it was a giant deer or a stray dog from the area. Kids' imaginations are always creative, so I naturally was skeptical. But 3 more kids ran inside. They saw it too. They described a large dog with black fur and glowing eyes looking at them. By now, I was growing concerned. I stepped out onto the porch and scanned the yard. The last 2 kids were still out, giggling and chasing each other, and then they stopped laughing. One of them let out a chilling expression. Ugh! A panicked, audible sound as if he was taken aback by something uncomfortable. I followed his gaze. At first, I thought it was a tree, but then I saw the shape. It was tall, too tall. Its arms were long, its legs bent at an unnatural angle, and its head looked like a wolf. But this was not your average wolf. It was standing there, watching the kids from the tree line. The kids were frozen, so was I. For a moment, that was. We just stared at each other. I firmly said to them, "Inside, now." The kids bolted toward me, running as fast as their legs could carry them. I got them inside the house threshold and slammed the door shut. I turned back to the yard. The thing hadn't moved. It was still there, watching. I locked eyes with it, my heart pounding so hard I could barely hear anything else. I don't know how long we stared at each other. 10 seconds? A minute? Suddenly, it retreated back to the forest. Without a sound, it disappeared into the trees. The second it was gone, it felt like a spell had been broken. The kids were crying, shaking, asking what that was. I didn't have an answer. We didn't see it again that night, but I didn't let the kids outside after dark, unless there were more than one adult outside to supervise. I had heard stories as a kid about strange creatures, fairies, ghosts, and dog-headed men from my dad. Did I just see the dreaded Michigan Dogman? Either way, I know what I saw that night. But something deep down tells me that I was lucky, because if you ever see the Michigan Dogman, you weren't its intended target. Stay safe out there.